It is 2 o'clock in the morning in the national forest, and you are wide awake in your sleeping bag, listening to something heavy move through the brush outside your tent. You did everything the way the sporting goods store told you. You bought the bright orange tent. You built the big cheerful fire. You fried your bacon right there at camp, and you zipped the leftovers into the tent beside you because that felt like the safest place for them. And now there's a black bear circling 40 yards out with a nose full of your supper, and every hair on your neck knows it. But nobody at that store ever told you the part that matters. My people could camp for weeks in country thick with bears, wolves, and unfriendly strangers, and never once be found. They did not do it with better gear. They did it with better thinking. Today I am going to teach you that thinking piece by piece, and stay with me to the end, because one rule about where you put your kitchen decides whether a bear ever walks into your camp, and it is the exact opposite of what feels safe. I'm Wes Kingfisher. I'm 64 years old, I'm of Cherokee heritage, and I was raised by my grandmother Ada in the hills of eastern Oklahoma, on the same ground I live on today. She taught me the plants in the kitchen, but it was my grandfather and my uncles who raised me in these woods: fire, shelter, water, and reading the land. 40 years on the powwow trail, camping with our people from the northern plains to the desert, taught me the rest. Now, the young folks these days have a name for sleeping out where nobody knows you are. They call it stealth camping. My grandfather just called it camping, because for the old ones, being unseen was the whole point. A hunter who announced himself went home hungry. A family moving through hard country did not light up the ridgeline. So they mastered 3 things, and everything I teach you today hangs on them: being hard to see, being hard to hear, and being hard to smell. Sight, sound, and scent. Now compare that to the modern way. A tent the color of a traffic cone, a bonfire you can see from the next county, bacon grease on the night air, and the cooler parked right beside your pillow. The store sold you $1,000 of equipment, and nearly every piece of it announces you to every animal and every stranger within a mile. One more thing before we start, because it matters. I am talking about ground. You have a right to be on public land that allows dispersed camping or a friend's back 40. The quiet camp was never about hiding from the game warden. It is a courtesy to the land and everything living on it. All right, we will take it in order: the ground, the shelter, the fire, the noise, and then that kitchen rule, the one that keeps a bear out of your bedroom. Hold on to that one, because I promise it is not what your gut says. But first, let me show you where all of this is written down. Now, everything I am showing you today, the ground, the shelter, the fire, and that kitchen rule, comes out of a book I put together called The Native American Way. 101 remedies, skills, and recipes that kept my people alive on this land for 10,000 years, handed to me by my grandmother Ada and the elders of Indian country, and written down plain, step by step, because the old ones never wrote it down, and somebody had to. The wild foods and when to gather them, the teas and salves from Ada's kitchen, fire, shelter, and water skills, like the ones we are working through right now. It is $17, marked down from $47. $17 against one more cart of gear that mostly announces you to the bears. 10,000 years of testing. That's the guarantee on this one. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, pour yourself a fresh cup of coffee, and let's go pick out a piece of ground the old way. The spot you choose does most of the work before you ever unroll a blanket. So we take our time here. My grandfather had a habit that used to drive me crazy as a boy. We would walk into a likely stretch of oak and hickory woods, and instead of setting up camp, he would sit down on a log and do nothing for 10 solid minutes. 10 minutes, just sitting. It took me years to understand what he was doing. When you first walk into the woods, everything goes quiet because everything is watching you. Sit still long enough, and the birds go back to singing, the squirrels go back to arguing, and the woods forgets you are there. Now you can hear what actually belongs in that place. A creek you did not notice, a far road you did not know was close, deer moving on a trail 30 yards off. That 10-minute sit will teach you more about a campsite than any map ever printed. Then you read the ground, and the first rule is to get off the trails. Every trail, human or animal, and I want you 100 yards off it. 100 yards, a full football field. The animal trails are the ones folks miss, so look down as you walk. A narrow, packed line of dirt through the leaf litter. A tunnel through the brush about knee-high. Tracks and droppings strung along it like beads. That is a highway, and it gets busy after dark. Deer use it, hogs use it, and bears use it, and you do not want your bedroll parked in the middle of the night shift. Second, stay back from the water. I know the creek is pretty. Camp near enough to fetch water, and far enough that you cannot hear every ripple, a good 200 feet back at least. Everything alive comes to the water at dusk and at dawn, and sound rolls down a creek bottom like a wagon on rails. The old hunting camp sat up on a bench instead, one of those flat shelves partway up the hillside, and there is a reason. Cold air is heavy. At night it slides downhill and pools on the valley floor the way water would, so the bottom ground is the coldest, dampest, foggiest bed in the woods. The ridge top is no better, because it catches every gust and shows your shape against the sky. But that bench part way up sits in a warm, quiet belt between the two, drier and hidden. The old ones knew that belt without ever owning a thermometer. Third, look up before you lie down. Find every dead limb hanging in the trees over your spot, the ones old woodsmen call widow makers, and move until there is nothing above your bed but live wood and sky. A storm at 2 in the morning will explain that rule better than I can, but I would rather you take my word for it. And last, give yourself cover and a back door. Set your camp against something, a deadfall, a cedar thicket, a rock face, anything that breaks up your shape and guards your back. Then make sure you know 2 ways out of your spot, not just one. My uncles drilled that into me before I was 10. You will probably never need the second way out, and you will sleep better every single night knowing it is there. So let's gather that up before we move on. Sit and listen for 10 minutes. Get 100 yards off every trail. Bench up above the water. Clear your overhead. Cover your back. Do those 5 things, and you are already camping quieter than nearly every man in the woods. But a good spot only keeps you from being found by accident. Staying unseen on purpose, that is the next piece. Now the shelter, and I want you to forget the tall, bright tent for a minute, because the woods will teach you what a shelter ought to look like. There are no straight lines out there, and there is nothing the color of a traffic cone. The eye, man's or animal's, catches 3 things fast: straight edges, bright color, and movement. So the quiet camp goes low, goes dull, and goes still. Low first. A shelter that stands knee-high disappears behind the first bush. A dome tent that stands chest-high shows over everything around it. If you are using modern gear, a plain tarp in brown or dead leaf green, pitched low like a wedge with the low side into the wind, will hide better than a $200 tent, and it costs about $20. Tuck it against that deadfall or thicket we just talked about on the shadow side, so its shape melts into the mess behind it. If you want to do it the old way, the woods will hand you the whole house. My people built with what was already down. Find your ridgepole, one stout fallen limb about as long as you are tall. Prop one in on a stump or a low fork about waist high. Lean ribs against it. Sticks set every few inches down both sides until it looks like the frame of an upside-down boat. Then pile on the leaves and the duff, the dead dry litter off the forest floor, and pile it thick. 2 feet thick. I do mean 2 full feet, because that pile is doing 2 jobs at once. It sheds the rain, and it holds your heat in like a blanket. From 40 yards away, that shelter reads as a brush pile, because that is exactly what it is. And out on the open plains, where there was nothing to lean a stick against, our people traveling light went even simpler. A warm robe and a low spot out of the wind, and a man was warm and out of sight in the same breath. One more thing about the bed, whichever roof you choose. Never sleep on the bare ground if you can help it. The ground pulls heat out of you all night long, like a slow leak you cannot hear. Pile dry leaves or pine duff under you, a good hand span deep after you press it flat. The old ones slept on the forest's own mattress, and it beats the foam pad from the store more nights than not. And some nights, the smartest shelter is hardly any shelter at all. Clear sky, mild evening, no weather coming, and the old travelers would go to bed cold. No fire at all, just wool and a hollow behind a log. A cold camp is the quietest camp there is, which brings us to the loudest, brightest thing a camper ever makes, the fire. And an old way of building one so clever that once you try it, you may never build a fire above ground again. My grandfather used to say a big fire warms the sky, a small fire warms the man. The bonfire is a modern habit, and it charges you 3 prices at once. Light they can see for a mile, smoke they can smell for 2, and a scorched black circle you can never quite hide come morning. The old fire was small, hot, hidden, and honest. And the finest version of it I ever learned came from our people out on the plains, the Dakotas, whose name is still on it. Folks call it the Dakota Fire Hole, and it is a fire built underground. Let me walk you through it slow, one step at a time. Find soil you can dig away from roots and away from any black peaty ground that could smolder. Cut the top plug of sod out in one careful piece. Set that plug aside like a lid, because you will want it back later. Dig your main hole about a foot across. Make it about a foot deep, maybe a hand deeper. That is your firebox. Now step to the upwind side, the side the breeze is coming from. About a foot away, dig a second, narrower hole, angled down so it meets the first one at the bottom. That second hole stays empty. It is the fire's windpipe. The breeze drops down it, slides under your coals, and feeds them from below. And the little fire breathes like a blacksmith's forge. So that is the how. Now the why, because the old ones always knew the why. Smoke is nothing but unburned fuel. The part of the wood, a cool, starved fire, was too weak to finish. Give a fire truly dry wood and a steady drink of air from underneath, and it burns hot enough to finish its own smoke. Hotter flame, less smoke, less wood, and your coffee boils faster too. And the flame itself sits below the level of the ground where no eye can catch it, which is how a man can cook a quiet supper at night, 30 yards off a trail, and walk out in the morning with nobody the wiser. 2 rules feed that fire right, so listen close. First, burn only dead, dry, standing wood, the branches that snap off clean with a crack, wrist thick or smaller. Never green wood and never wet wood off the ground, because green and wet is exactly what makes that thick white smoke you can smell a valley away. Second, keep it small. If the flame ever climbs up out of the hole, you build it too big, and you have started announcing yourself all over again. And when you're done, you put the woods back the way you found them. Pour water in and stir the ashes. Pour again and stir again. Then hold the back of your hand over it and then touch it. Because cold means cold. Cold enough to press your palm flat against it. Fill the dirt back in, set that plug of sod on top like you are closing a book, and press it down. After a week of rain, even I would have a hard time finding where you cooked, and that is exactly how the land likes it. Now, that handles nearly everything a stranger's eye can catch, but the woods has ears. And it has one nose that will beat every trick you have learned so far. The ears we can settle in about 2 minutes. The nose is the promise I made you at the very start of this video, so let's finish the ears, and then I will pay up in full. Sound is the simplest of the 3, because sound is mostly habit. Start with your feet. My uncles taught me to walk the way the fox walks, and it goes like this. Set the outside edge of your foot down first. Roll your weight in slowly across the sole. Let your toes take the load last. Feel what is under your boot before you commit to it. It is slower than a town walk, and that is the point, because speed is noise. In camp, the rules are just as plain. No chopping and no sawing, because a single axe strike carries half a mile on a still evening. Dead wood snaps quietly in your hands, or it stays where it lies. Wrap your metal, the cup, the pot, the belt buckle in a shirt or a bandana so nothing clanks in your pack. Keep your voice low after dark, because night air and creek bottoms carry a whisper like a telephone wire. And remember your 10-minute sit. When the birds are singing over your head like you were never there, you're doing it right. Then there is the sign you leave behind, because a quiet camp stays quiet after you are gone. Cut nothing green, scar no bark. If you roll a log over to sit on, roll it back when you break camp. Scatter your leaf bed in the morning. Pack out every scrap you packed in, down to the twist tie. My grandmother had a saying about that. She said the woods should have to wonder whether you were ever really there. Take only what you need, use all of what you take, and leave the rest breathing. All right, your camp is invisible, it is silent, and by morning it is gone without a trace. And now I owe you the answer I planted at the beginning, because none of it, not the bench, not the brush pile, not the buried fire, means a thing to the one animal that never needed to see you or hear you in the first place. You have seen the sign at the trailhead, the one that reads warning, area inhabited by dangerous wildlife. Out here, that sign is mostly talking about a nose. A black bear's nose is somewhere between 5 and 7 times keener than a bloodhound's. I will say that again because this whole lesson turns on it. 5 to 7 times keener than a bloodhound. That bear can pull your bacon grease out of the evening air from better than a mile away, through timber in the dark, uphill or down. There's no tent, no camouflage, and no fire hole that hides from a nose like that. So the old ones never tried. And this is the answer I promised you. You do not hide the smell from the bear. You move the smell away from the bed. Every quiet camp my grandfather ever set had 2 addresses. There was the bedroom and there was the kitchen, and they were never the same place. The kitchen sits at least 100 yards from where you sleep. 100 yards, a full football field, and I want that kitchen downwind and downhill of your bed. Every bit of smell business in your whole camp happens at the kitchen, and only at the kitchen. The cooking happens there. The eating happens there. The dishwater gets strained and scattered there. The food bag lives there. Even your toothpaste stays there, because sweet mint smells like candy to a bear. When supper is done, hang the food at the kitchen, 10 to 12 feet off the ground, and a good 4 to 6 feet out from the trunk on a limb, too high to reach and too far out to climb to. 10 to 12 feet up, 4 to 6 feet out. Then wash up and change your shirt, because the shirt you fried supper in smells like supper all night long, and it sleeps in the food bag at the kitchen, not on your back. Then you walk your 100 yards home to a bedroom that smells like nothing but leaves. Now the why, and it is the part that feels backwards. Every instinct you have says, keep the food close where you can guard it. But think about what the night air is doing. The cool evening air slides downhill, remember? And it carries your kitchen's scent down and away with it like a river. A bear, crossing that river of smell, turns and follows it upstream to the source. And when he arrives, where is he standing? In an empty kitchen, 100 yards downwind of your bed, nosing at a bag he cannot reach, 12 feet up a tree. He was following the smell the whole way, and the smell never once led to you. That is the whole trick. And it took 10,000 years of sleeping in bear country to polish it. You will never beat that nose, so you hand that nose a destination that sits 100 yards from your pillow. The fellow in the orange tent at the start of this video did the exact opposite. He zipped his supper in beside his own head and turned his bedroom into the kitchen. That bear circling his camp had simply accepted an invitation the man never knew he sent. And one more word, because the old ones use what worked, and so do I. Where the rangers hang steel food boxes or ask for a bear canister, use them gladly. That is the same old rule written down in metal. And that rule was handed to me for free around a fire like everything else in this video. There are 101 of them in the book. The Native American Way, the remedies, the wild foods, the skills, and the old recipes, written out plain so they do not die with me. It is $17 marked down from $47, and one quiet night saved by one-page pays that back with change to spare. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there it is, the quiet camp. High ground off the trails, a shelter that reads as brush, a fire down in the earth, a soft step, and a kitchen 100 yards from your bed. Now, tell me in the comments where your people are from, and if there's native blood in your family line, like there is in so many American families. I'd be honored to hear the story. I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you how the old ones found clean drinking water in dry country, and the one common tree that points to it like a signpost, the way our people in the desert Southwest taught me. And once you can read it, you will never look at a dry creek bed the same way again. Wado, my friends. That means thank you. Walk easy, and I'll see you down the trail.